The movie begins in Latin America, a region gripped by a terrifying surge in kidnappings. Every hour, someone is abducted, and tragically, statistics reveal that nearly 70% of these victims never survive. Against this backdrop of danger and uncertainty, former CIA operative John W. Creasy arrives in Mexico, seeking out his old friend Paul Rayburn, who, like John, once served in the agency. Their reunion is somber, reflecting the weight of their past lives. In a candid conversation, John asks Paul whether they could ever find forgiveness for the morally ambiguous and often violent actions they carried out while working for the CIA. Paul admits that he doesn't know the answer but urges John to try and gain some control over his drinking, hinting at the personal demons John still battles. Paul inquires about John's current life, curious about what the former agent has been doing since leaving the CIA. John admits that he has been living aimlessly, drifting without purpose, doing little of significance. Observing John's potential, Paul points out that many wealthy and influential people in Mexico City are in desperate need of skilled bodyguards, and he believes John would excel in such a role. He specifically mentions Samuel Ramos, a successful automaker whose young daughter, Lupita, or Pita, needs protection. Her kidnapping insurance policy is only valid if a qualified bodyguard is present, adding urgency to the request. The story then shifts to Samuel Ramos, who is seen consulting with his lawyer, Jordan. The lawyer emphasizes the legal and professional stakes. Without securing a competent bodyguard, Samuel risks losing not only his daughter's safety but also the future of his business, as his license could be jeopardized. Recognizing the severity of the situation, Paul convinces John to accept the assignment, setting him on a path that will challenge him both professionally and personally. Later, John meets with Samuel, and as they review his background, Samuel learns that John is a former CIA officer. Impressed, he questions why a man of John's skill and experience would choose a comparatively modest role as a personal bodyguard. John responds honestly, revealing that his heavy drinking has compromised his reflexes and judgment, rendering him unsuitable for government work. This candid admission underscores the inner struggles John faces, as well as his desire to find some form of redemption or purpose in a world far removed from the covert operations of his past. Samuel reassures John that he has no issues with his drinking. All he asks is for the safety and protection of his daughter, though he requests that John not mention his alcohol habits in front of his wife. Upon arriving at Samuel's home, John meets Lisa, Samuel's wife, who seems pleased by the fact that he is American. Soon after, Lisa calls their young daughter, Lupita, known affectionately as Pita. The little girl greets John warmly and eagerly gives him a tour of her room. During the tour, Pita reveals that John is her fifth bodyguard and expresses a quiet hope that he won't leave her as the others did. Despite noticing John's somber and distant demeanor, Pita quickly warms to him. She begins to enjoy his company and even names her teddy bear John Creasy, a small gesture that reflects her growing trust and affection. One day, as John examines a map of Pita's school in her room, a noisy parrot disrupts his concentration. With a calm resolve, he opens the cage and lets the bird fly free, demonstrating his quiet decisiveness and sense of care. The following day, as they drive to school, Pita bombards John with questions. She asks if it's difficult being a black bodyguard in Mexico, to which he responds that only time will tell. She then talks about the alarming rise in kidnappings, mentioning that 24 people have gone missing just in the past week. Despite the serious topic, her curiosity keeps coming, and by the time they reach the school, John has endured a flurry of questions. At the school, Pita insists that John come inside. She introduces him to her teacher, who immediately senses the weight of John's past. Observing his demeanor, she remarks that he looks deeply troubled and suggests that reading the Bible might offer him some solace. She even recites a few verses aloud, prompting John to respond with verses of his own, revealing that he is already familiar with Scripture. While Pita attends class, John waits outside, vigilantly observing the surroundings. Once school is over, he picks her up, and on the way home, Pita resumes her relentless questioning. She asks if he enjoyed school as a child, and John admits that he did not, explaining that his school lacked the fun activities and facilities she has. Eventually, his patience wears thin. He reminds her firmly that his primary role is to protect her, not to be her companion, and asks her to stop asking so many questions. Pita, upset by his rebuke, retreats to the backseat of the car, leaving John to reflect quietly on the boundaries of their growing relationship. John soon realizes that his harsh words have upset Pita. When they return home, Lisa tries to engage him in conversation, but John, ever reserved, gently makes her understand that he is not a very talkative person. He emphasizes that his role in their lives is strictly professional. He is there to protect Pita, not to be a friend or companion. That night, John struggles to sleep as memories from his past continue to haunt him. The weight of guilt over his actions during his CIA career, combined with the burnout from alcoholism, drives him to the edge. In a moment of despair, he attempts to take his own life, but the bullet in his gun misfires, saving him. Shaken, John calls Paul and confides in him, recounting everything he has been experiencing. Paul urges him to pull himself together, to find some purpose and reason to move forward. Unknown to John, Peta has been watching the entire episode through her window. Slowly, she begins to sense the depth of his pain and inner struggle, developing a quiet empathy for him. The following morning, John escorts Peta and her mother to school. On the way, he notices a suspicious car trailing them. Acting quickly, he asks Peta for a pencil, but the clever little girl already observes the vehicle and jots down its license plate herself. Later, John attends Peta's swimming competition. Despite her best effort, she finishes third, disheartened. John reassures her, explaining that her speed is unmatched, but she loses precious time diving into the water. Through coaching and encouragement, he helps Peta become a more confident swimmer, strengthening the bond between them. When Lisa and John travel to another city, Peta remains with him, and he continues training her. Over time, John begins to care for her deeply, as though she were his own daughter. The day of the next swimming competition arrives, and Peta triumphs, winning the event. Their shared joy is evident, marking a turning point in their relationship. As Peta begins piano lessons, John accompanies her to her classes. However, upon exiting the building, he spots the suspicious car from before and notices 2 federal police officers blocking the street. His instincts tell him immediately that something is wrong, danger is approaching, and he must act to protect Peta at all costs. As Peta steps outside, John immediately senses danger. Realizing she is about to be abducted, he warns her to run. Gunfire erupts as both sides exchange shots. John moves with precision and lethal efficiency, killing 4 of the attackers, including the corrupt officers, but he is critically wounded in the process. Despite his efforts, Peta is taken. Recovering from his injuries, John is immediately treated as a suspect. However, investigative reporter Mariana Guerrero questions the official story, pointing out that the policemen involved were off-duty and had previously been linked to corruption cases. To keep John safe from the compromised police, AFI agent Miguel Manzano relocates him to a veterinary clinic. Meanwhile, the leader of the kidnapping ring, known only as the Voice, demands a $10 million ransom. Samuel Ramos complies, coordinating with Police Lieutenant Victor Fuentes. However, the ransom exchange is ambushed, resulting in the death of the Voice's nephew. Furious, the Voice blames the Ramos family and declares that Peta will be lost to them forever as retribution. Mariana warns John that the kidnappers are part of a powerful organization known as La Hermandad, a corrupt network of officials, police, and criminals. Despite the danger, John makes a solemn promise to Peta's mother, Lisa, that he will hunt down and kill everyone responsible for her daughter's abduction. Returning to Peta's room, John reads her diary and discovers the depth of her affection for him. Among her personal notes, he finds the license plate number of the car that followed them. He immediately contacts Mariana, seeking every detail about the vehicle. With Paul's assistance, John acquires a small arsenal of weapons and tactical equipment, preparing for the coming confrontation. John tracks down and brutally interrogates the gate driver, going so far as to sever his finger to extract critical information before killing him. The lead directs John to a local club, where he confronts 3 of the kidnappers. Using swift and ruthless force, John eliminates middleman Jersey Boy and another criminal, recovering both an incriminating ATM card and another kidnapped girl. He turns them over to Mariana, who reveals that Fuentes is secretly part of La Hermandad. Meanwhile, Manzano interviews Paul, who describes John as an artist of death, warning that once John has committed himself to revenge, he will spare no one involved in Peta's kidnapping. Recognizing John's determination, Mariana convinces Manzano to support him in his campaign against the kidnappers, effectively aiding him in waging war against the powerful criminal network. Determined to strike at the heart of the conspiracy, John ambushes Fuentes' motorcade using a rocket-propelled grenade. He captures the terrified officer and, in a calculated move, rigs a bomb to his body. Under duress, Fuentes admits that he had orchestrated the ambush on the ransom drop, only to discover afterward that much of the money had already been stolen by Samuel's lawyer, Jordan Kalfas. After eliminating Fuentes, John investigates Kalfas' home, discovering his decapitated body and a fax containing bank account information that leads directly to Samuel. Confronting Samuel and calling his wife, John uncovers the shocking truth. Kalfas had suggested arranging Peta's kidnapping to claim the insurance money to settle Samuel's father's debts, with the promise that Peta would remain unharmed. When Fuentes interfered, Peta's life was put at risk, and Samuel, believing Kalfas responsible for the tragedy, executed him. Lisa, unaware of her husband's involvement, demands that John kill Samuel, threatening to do it herself. John leaves Samuel with a gun and the bullet he had once used in his own attempted suicide. Overcome with remorse, Samuel turns the weapon on himself. Meanwhile, Mariana and Manzano trace the stolen ATM card to the Voice's wife, locating her home and obtaining a photograph of the elusive ringleader. Despite threats from La Hermandad, Mariana publishes the photo and provides the address to John. Using this intel, John captures the Voice's wife and his brother Aurelio, but he is shot in the chest during the operation. He discovers the ringleader's true identity, Daniel Sanchez. In a tense confrontation, John calls Daniel, threatening his family. Daniel reveals that Peta is still alive and offers to exchange her for his brother and for John. John agrees to the trade. John instructs Lisa to meet him at the exchange, where he finally reunites with Peta on an overpass. He assures her of his love before safely sending her to her mother. John and Aurelio are then taken by Daniel's men. Though gravely wounded, John faces his end with a sense of fulfillment, knowing that Peta is safe. In the aftermath, Manzano tracks down Daniel and eliminates him during the course of the arrest, ensuring that the criminal network is dismantled. The story closes with a sense of closure and justice. Thank you for watching this recap. If you enjoyed it, subscribe for more videos, turn on notifications, and leave a like to support the channel.